This is the Chassidic Story Project with Barak Hullman, podcasting from Jerusalem, Israel. This podcast is sponsored by listeners just like you. To become a supporter of this podcast, please go to HasidicStory.com, HASIDIC story.com. You'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know. When Reb Meir Premishlan was 10 years old, he had a melamed, a chassid of his father, whose name was Reb Dov of Podetz, who would teach him every day. And on Thursday, Reb Meir decided to take upon himself the mitzvah of collecting tzedakah to give to poor families in order to buy food for Shabbos. He would go to the marketplace and go around to the vendors and ask them for tzedakah. There was one shochet, one butcher, whose name was Shimon. And when little Reb Meir came over and asked for his donation, the butcher said to him, "Instead of giving you one kreutzer, I'll give you two, on the condition that you tell me whether this ox over here, after I shecht it, it's going to turn out to be kosher or not." And 10-year-old Reb Meir, he looks at the ox and he says, "Okay, I'll tell you if it's kosher or not, but you'll have to give me half a fertziger, which is 10 kreutzer, and then I'll tell you." It's a lot of money to give to a 10-year-old kid. But the butcher said to himself, you know what, his father is Rebbe, and he does look like a holy little kid. Who knows? Maybe he can really tell the difference. And so he gives the money to Reb Meir. And then Reb Meir says to him, "This ox is treifa. It's not kosher. If you shecht it, you'll find out that there's a blemish in the lung, and you'll have to give it away." So then the butcher said, "What about this one over here?" And then Meir said, "Well, I'll tell you about that one as well, but you have to give me another half a fertziger." So the butcher says, "Okay, fine. Here you go." Hands him the coin. And Meir said, "That one is completely kosher. As a matter of fact, it's glatt kosher. There are no blemishes whatsoever in that ox over there." The butcher wasn't sure if he was making a good investment or not. This was a lot of money that he'd given away to a 10-year-old boy. But he said to himself, it's all for tzedakah. And he is a cute kid. So he gave him the money. He bought the ox that little Meir told him to buy, and another butcher bought the first one. And it turned out that Shimon's ox was in fact glatt kosher, and the other ox that was bought by the other shochet was treif, just like Meir had said. The next Thursday, Meir came by the marketplace again to collect tzedakah, and he went over to Shimon the butcher, and he said to him, "Shimon, you have any tzedakah for Shabbos?" And Shimon called Meir over, and he said, "Meirche, I'll give you this time a whole fertziger if you can tell me which one of the oxen that are up for sale are kosher and which are not." And Meir said, "If you give me half a fertziger for each ox, I'll tell you, just like I did the last time." This time, the butcher didn't need to think. He gave the money over right away. And Meir said to him, "This one's kosher, this one's treif, this one's kosher, this one's treif." And they went through all of the oxen, and the butcher paid him for each one that he told him whether it was kosher or treif. Of course, the 10-year-old Meir was very happy, collected a lot of money without having to spend a lot of time. And of course, he was giving this all away to the poor. And now he had more time to sit and learn. And the butcher, for his part, seeing that Meir was never wrong, he was very happy as well. When it came the next Thursday, the butcher took Meir aside and he said to him, "Listen, Meir, can I make a deal with you? Can we sign a contract together? I'll pay you every week for every ox you tell me. I'll pay whatever price you tell me. But let's make a deal that this is just a secret between the two of us." And the 10-year-old boy, he said to the shochet, "I'm not interested in contracts or secrets. You just give me half a fertziger for each ox, and I'll tell you whether it's kosher or not." This went on every week for many months, and nobody knew what was going on except for the butcher and Meir. Week by week, the butcher would pay in advance for the information, and as a result, he never bought a treif animal. And all of the animals that he bought were not only kosher, but they were kosher in the strictest way possible. They were glatt kosher, the Mahadran. Now the other shochtim, they were jealous and they were upset because they couldn't understand how Shimon never, ever bought a treif animal, and they seemed to buy all the treif animals. How is it that everything that Shimon buys is kosher and everything they buy is treif? He's getting richer and richer, and they're losing money left and right. So they came to the conclusion that Shimon must be bribing the rabbi that's announcing whether something is kosher or treif. So they went and complained to the rabbi. They said, Rabbi, we know you're in cahoots with Shimon. You're taking bribes from him. It's not fair. We want our animals pronounced as kosher also. We'll pay you whatever you want. The rabbi said, what are you talking about? I'm not taking any money from Shimon, and I'm not lying about anything. I mean, you can see for yourselves. Every animal that he slaughters is in fact kosher. You can see for yourselves. And you guys, everything you slaughter is not kosher. It has nothing to do with me. So the other butchers were very upset, and they decided that they were going to watch Shimon all day long. They were going to catch him in the act. What was he doing to only get kosher animals? And why couldn't they get the same? So then one day, they noticed the little mayor was walking around with Shimon. Shimon would point at an ox. The mayor would tell him something. Shimon would buy them, and mayor would get paid. So the other shochtim, they went over to mayor, and they said, Meirche, daven for us also. We want you to daven for us just like you do for Shimon. Whatever you do for Shimon, do it for us. And mayor said, I don't do anything special for him. If you give me half a fertziger, I'll tell you what I tell him. So they wanted to know, what do you tell him? What do you do for him? Whatever it is, do it for us also. And mayor said, I tell him which one is kosher and which one is not. And for each one he pays me half a fertziger. So they gave him half a fertziger. And mayor pointed an ox next to them, and he says, that one is treif. So then the butchers turned to another ox, and they said, what about this one? And mayor said, my deal with Shimon is that for every ox, he pays half a fertziger. So you're going to have to do the same for me. Now the butchers realized what was going on. So that's Shimon's secret. And from that Thursday, they gave Mayor all the money that he asked for tzedakah in order to go up and down the market with them and tell them which ones were kosher and which ones were not. And Mayor raised more money than he had ever raised from Shimon because now he had all the butchers in town. Everyone was giving him half a fertziger. He raised enough money to support many families in town. Well, something like this doesn't go unnoticed. And word got back to Reb Dov, the Melamed of the 10-year-old Reb Meir. And Reb Dov understood what was going on. He said to Meir, listen, Meir, you are not allowed to walk around the marketplace and tell butchers what's kosher and what's not. Meir looked at his Melamed and said, why? What's wrong with what I'm doing? It's very clear to me. I just look at the animals and I can tell. This one's kosher. This one's not. They give me all this money, and I give it to help poor Jews that need to buy food for Shabbos. The Melamed, who obviously was a great chassid himself, he said to Meir, Meir, it's not your place to use Ruach HaKodesh, to use divine knowledge, to tell somebody what they should be buying or what they shouldn't. Now, I want you to stop this right now. You go around and collect tzedakah just like everyone else, and no more predicting which one is kosher and which one is treif. Now, since Reb Dov was a chassid of Meir's father, Reb Aaron Leib of Premishlan, he went to visit the father, the Rebbe, to tell him what was going on. And he also told the Rebbe that he had scolded the Rebbe's son, Meir, and told him to stop doing this. And after the Rebbe had listened, he told the Melamed, you know, you were an excellent Melamed up until now, but now I know you're the right Melamed for my son. Because a boy like Meir needs to learn that even though he can see things, it doesn't mean that he's supposed to share it with everybody else. And so from that point on, Reb Meir had to learn the lesson that even though he had Ruach HaKodesh and he could see things that other people couldn't, some things he had to keep to himself. I lie.